All right, that thing is on. This thing is on. We're in a different part of the house. March film stocks. Let's do it. The gist here is essentially to just make a video talking about the film stocks that I shoot each month. I did it for January, I did it for February. We're going to do it for March. I'm in a different part of the house now. I just got back home from work. I work a second job over at Mountain State Brewing Company, cutting pizzas. So this is the uniform that I wear. I really don't feel like getting all dolled up, and I have a bunch of dogs walking around the house with the pitter patter. There he goes. So we're just going to do our best here. Whatever. Enough chit chat. Let's chat about film stocks. We got quite a bit of snow there at the end of February and at the beginning of March, and I really wanted to experiment with different film stocks and see what performs better in the snow, and my film of choice for that was Portra 160. So I shot 2 rolls over the course of March, and they were spanned across a trip to Portra State Park, me kind of just running around the area taking photos, a trip to the Fresno Forest, and then a trip to Canaan Valley Resort State Park. And overall, I'd say that Portra 160 makes for a great snow film. For starters, with the pictures with Audra, really big fan of the colors, really big fan of just, the whites in the snow, just looking very pleasing. Also, it's the fact that Portra 160 is a 160 speed film. It's a slower film stock, so it's going to have finer grain than, Portra 400 or Portra 800. And then, some of those shots around town, like these here at this little creek that flows over into the Blackwater. The 2 days prior to this, we had quite a big winter storm come in, so there's plenty of snow all over the area. And, one thing that I've learned is when you get a big snowstorm, when it passes, you're usually going to have a bluebird day that follows. And, Portra 160 just captured that perfectly. It got a really nice wintry landscape here in a couple of these shots. I was really pleased with these out of any of the ones that I got on this roll in particular. And then the final roll was used up over at Canaan Valley Resort State Park during this final little blizzard that we had, like middle of March. And going back to what I mentioned in my last video about me really liking the greens that I get out of Portra 160, this definitely came through as well, but there was snow involved. So big fan of these shots, especially some of the ones here of Sylvie hiking in the snow. I can't remember what trees are down there, but they're really nice. I like them. I'm not going to get scientific about it, but I just think that they came out looking great in these pictures. So going back overall, Portra 160, I really like it. I think it's a great winter film stock. Enough said about it, and now on to the next one. It's no secret that I have an affinity for 120 Kodak Gold 200. There's a lot of numbers involved, but let me just tell you, I really like medium format Kodak Gold. That's all I gotta say. Every early March, I usually make a trip back to Baltimore to visit with friends and family, kind of like a celebration of, yay, you survived a West Virginia winter. So I did that again this year, keeping with tradition. Took some rolls of film with me, and I wanted to take Kodak Gold up to this little stretch along the Gunpowder River. And I really wanted to see, just how this place would look if I photographed it on film. I was really going for some of those green, warmer tones, shooting a lot of wide angle shots and trying to get some long exposures. Really happy with these images on this roll. And then I kind of continued some of those shots on another roll, and then finished up that second roll over at Loch Raven Reservoir after a little headshot session. They're okay. They're not the best. I'm really not big fans of them. Some of them are underexposed. Some of them have weird color shifting to them. Part of me thinks that I didn't expose these shots correctly. And then I also came away with a double exposure because I just wasn't paying attention when using the Mamiya. That shot in particular isn't bad. It's kind of a vibe. I'm a fan of it. I don't hate it, but shots like those happen when you use that camera. That couple of frames of Kodak Gold could have been better, but overall, I'm still a fan. Fuji 400 in 35mm. I know it's not superior, but this film stock and what I've done with it in the past and, kind of where I'm at with it now, it's becoming one of my favorites very quickly. I shot a couple rolls in this haul, one on the Olympus and the other on a Canon A2. The one roll that I shot in the Olympus was spread out over a weekend at Canaan Valley Resort State Park. They had a really big brew fest. It was their second annual hometown brew fest. So then the following morning, I finished up this roll at the State Park Foundation's uphill scramble. I don't see many photos of things like this happening on film or being captured on film, so I figured why not? And it was just fun. It was a cool event to just kind of photograph some of those folks, take this little fun camera around, capture some of those personalities. So popping it in the point and shoot camera, I think it's a perfect combination for an event like this. You know, the colors look great. There's a couple times when the focus is a little off, but you know, I like that aesthetic. I like that feel to those photos. And then the other roll was shot the weekend of my girlfriend's family's maple syrup breakfast. So I went ahead and took a roll of Fuji 400, loaded it in my Canon A2, and walked around, took some photos of the maple syrup getting made, took some photos of some of the folks there. Really just going back to those Fuji colors. I really like them. You know, say what you will about Fuji 400, I think it just works really well with the colors. And then to finish up this roll, Sophia and I, we took it out with us on our little hike over in Canaan Valley and took some photos in the snow, and then kind of wrapped up this roll by taking a couple portraits of Sophia when the snow got really intense up here in town. I, you know, was really pleased with them. I was really happy with how Fuji 400, you know, captured some of those skin tones, and it just makes me wonder about using certain films for, you know, certain applications. And with Fuji 400, I know it's a cheap film. I know it's a 400 speed film. It's got some high grain, but outside of that, I think it is a multi-purpose film, and I think it can work in a lot of different scenarios. I think that Fuji 400, it just works. It's great. So Portra 400 in 120. I'm going to try and keep this one short because I mentioned last month me trying to combo Portra 400 with the with the Mamiya 645 medium format camera. A new addition to the crew and definitely a staple at this point, I can confidently say. This was me putting that idea or putting that theory of, hey, I think this film stock works well with this camera, putting it to test in the field in a professional setting. So I had an engagement session at the beginning of the month over in Blackwater, and I had talked to the couple beforehand, and I said, hey, I'd like to take some photos on film free of charge. I'm just trying this out. Want to see how this goes. They were totally on board for it, and we kind of fused some of these film photos into us taking the digital photos. Overall, with this roll of film, tons of wins. There were maybe like 2 or 3 pictures that didn't quite turn out. One was a little underexposed. I think I had like a triple exposure because I just am still learning how to use that camera. And then another one was just slightly out of focus, but outside of that, those other 12 exposures came out great. I was really pleased with this roll, really pleased with these images. Definitely will be doing this again soon, I hope. I hope to offer this more with some of my wedding services, but this was definitely a great first run with this camera and film stock combo. I can confidently tell you, though, that I was absolutely wrong about Ektar 100 last month. The purpose of me using Ektar 100 is a lot of my photography that I do with film at the moment is, you know, sort of a mix between portraits and landscapes, but it's mostly landscapes. It's mostly outdoor photography. You know, and people rave about Ektar 100 being that, you know, film that's perfect for landscape use. And my first go around, I just wasn't really impressed by it. This month, I'm starting to get onto the Ektar train. So I shot a roll at Audra, shot a roll up in Canaan, and then I shot a roll when I went back to Baltimore at one of my favorite spots called Paper Mill Flats. First off, the Audra roll, holy blue. I had no idea that Ektar 100 was going to capture that kind of color. Seeing that image right there definitely got me intrigued to do more stuff with Ektar 100. There are a few frames with some weird colors, and I think that's in part due to the ND CPL filter that I was using at the time when I shot this roll. Probably won't be doing that again. When it came to some of the photos in Canaan Valley, I didn't properly expose 2 of the frames, so I was a little bummed about that because I was really hoping to capture this scene with some snow and hoping that Ektar was going to do good with it. But this was all user error on my part, so I'm, you know, not blaming the film stock whatsoever. I think if they had been exposed properly, they probably would have come out good. Yeah, but once again, going back to the contrast, going back to the color, I think when you expose this film properly, you're going to get a really nice image. And then finally, talking about some of the photos from the roll I shot at Paper Mill Flats. These are some of my favorites that I've shot with Ektar 100 thus far. I love the moodiness in the fog. I love the color of the vegetation, the color of the trees, and that's all on Ektar 100. And I love that. I think that's so great, and it got me so pumped about this film stock. Yeah, it's really good to look back on this month and see how Ektar 100 did in a variety of conditions. Super thrilled with the results from Ektar 100, and yes, I will definitely be shooting more. Okay, conclusion. Let's wrap this puppy up. What was my favorite film stock for the month of March? absolutely it's going to be Fuji 400. As a 400 speed film, it's pretty versatile. It's also really inexpensive at like $8 a roll right now, I believe. And the results I got this month from using Fuji 400, I was really, really pleased with. Almost like too pleased with how some of them turned out. Especially when it's paired with the A2 and the Sigma lens that I used on that second roll. I think they did great. But even then, using it as a point and shoot film and, a point and shoot camera, I still think it did great. When it comes to the skin tones in some of those portraits on that last roll, I kind of prefer that over what I got with my Portra 400. And then using it for a landscape film in a couple of those shots, I kind of prefer that as well. With this photo in particular, I actually just had someone reach out to me about wanting to buy a print of this photo. So we're going to see how that goes. I'm not sure how Fuji 400 is going to, do in a large format print. I think as far as it goes, I think Fuji 400 was a home run film for this month. Ektar 100 though, super close second. Definitely plan on shooting more of this film, but from what I got this month, really pleased. Just couldn't make it to the #1 spot though. I don't think I have a least favorite film stock. I know Kodak Gold, slipped up a couple times, but I think that was just more so I didn't expose for things properly when I took those couple of frames. All the film stocks that I shot this month did pretty good, and I was pretty pleased with my results overall. So I don't think I have a least favorite for the month. I think another thing too is that as I'm continuing to do more and more film photography, I'm noticing that I'm, changing some of my practices, but also sticking and solidifying to some of my practices. I'm now using Gelatin Labs a little bit more. They're a lab based over in New Jersey. I'll put their link in the description below. I like the fact that I can send them my rolls of film to get developed, and then they can send me back the negatives, and I can scan them here at home. I'm really enjoying that process so far. I should probably also just let you know I'm not sponsored by Gelatin Labs. However, that'd be pretty cool if I was like affiliated with them. I don't know, a small West Virginia film photographer being sponsored by a film lab. That'd be pretty cool. That's just a dream somewhere up there. I don't know. But, it'd just be kind of cool. Also, with me just sending stuff off and scanning it here, I really just don't have time to develop my film right now, nor do I have the equipment to do so. That's something I may explore a little bit of in the future, but for the time being, I just enjoy sending it out, getting the negatives back, scanning it here. So to wrap this up, I'd say March, pretty great month for film photography. A lot of different conditions to shoot film in, a lot of different, seeing how certain films do in certain conditions. And I really like that. I really like being able to spend more time with films in certain conditions to see how they perform. And I think March was a great month for that, especially with Ektar 100 and especially with Portra 160. I should also mention that these rolls of film were from like the first half of March. And then after I sent these off, I started working on another haul. So the next video is probably going to be like end of March, total of April film stock video. And the lab just let me know that those are getting developed and they actually have just been shipped. They're like on their way here. Should be here in a couple days, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm super excited to get those negatives back because there's some new film stocks in there and there's some different formats in there. And I'm just excited to see how that goes. So the stoke is pretty high over here for film photography, and I'm still loving every second of it. In the meantime, and I'm just looking at the script here, so I'm pretty much done at this point, but in the meantime, that's it for this video. So thank you very much for watching. Let me know some of your thoughts down below. What do you think of some of the images? What do you think of the film stocks? Do you like Fuji 400 as much as I like Fuji 400? I don't know. Do you have any more tips on Ektar 100? Because I would really like some more tips on Ektar 100. I really like the film. I want to shoot more of the film. Probably still have a little ways to go with it. But anywho, once again, that's it for the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.